Grand Rising, and welcome to the Trail Podcast, a JDS philosophy production. I am your host, Jonas Spencer, and I'd like to thank you for embarking on this new journey with me. Today, I'd like to start by briefly touching on a few things. This is not necessarily going to be the final format for my podcast. However, this will be the podcast. And what I mean by that is I'm not necessarily going to keep it in a more lecture style format like I'm doing at this time. I do hope to have guests and eventually a co host, so it's more of a conversational style format. However, I do firmly believe in the concept of the time is never right, so make it. And I've put effort into trying to make some of these things happen already, but I also have to move forward. I can't hang myself up waiting for other things to come together. So, without any further ado, I'm going to present kind of the first real solid episode of the Trail Podcast. And today's topic is going to be the deep dive. It's going to be about going within oneself, and we're going to take a look at the benefits of taking the deep dive into oneself, kind of what that entails, what it looks like, and what some of the unintended side effects that I found through my own journey ended up being from taking the deep dive. I'd like to go ahead and ask if you haven't already, but you enjoy the content, we'd love for you to like, follow, and subscribe. Uh, we're on multiple platforms, got things set up on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Patreon, Spotify. You can find us a lot of different places. Very much so, would appreciate the support. Uh, and without any further ado, we're going to jump right into it. Now, one of the big questions that we come up on when we start this is, what does it even look like? What does it mean to go within oneself? And it's got a lot of different names, and it can look like a lot of different things. Some of the names you might have heard it called are shadow work, healing, or just calling it exactly what it is, addressing the traumas that caused everything, the things in our lives that happen that we have not addressed, that have put us into the state we are in, and have kept us from obtaining the things we were working towards. And from there, now that we know kind of what to call it, we need to start to examine, how do we do this? And there's a lot of different paths. And understand, there is no correct path. That's why you have to go within yourself. We have all the answers. They just got hidden in the scariest place. And that's why this deep dive becomes so critically important. But you have to know how to do it. Otherwise, it's a daunting task that is absolutely terrifying. Some of the tools that are very, very helpful in this are things like meditation. I know that meditation ended up becoming one of the core building blocks for me. It was something that I was able to understand on a lot of levels, and there are so many different ways to meditate. And that's the beauty of it. Meditation is not just a one shot. You can meditate while driving. You can meditate while cooking. You can meditate simply while you're walking down the street. It's about being present and in the moment. It's about experiencing things as they come through, but not holding on to them. And it becomes a very sharpening exercise in being present. One of the one of the misconceptions with it is that it's getting your mind to a clear state where there is no thought going on in your head. And that gets difficult for people to comprehend at times. It becomes scary for them, and it causes people to shy away, to be honest, until you understand that it's not about not having any thoughts and having your mind be just like a clear slate. It's about allowing the thoughts to pass through, not attaching anything to them, not holding them within your mind, but thinking the thought and letting it go. And it becomes an exercise in being able to let go of the things that hold us back and acknowledge the lies that we tell ourselves that keep us from falling far enough to find the answers we seek. This also comes in the form of mindfulness. When you're paying a great deal of attention to everything you're doing in life, you find yourself lodged in the present. When you work with intention in everything you do, you stop planning and you start making now the moment, and you be mindful of what you're doing as you're doing it. You go so much further, and the power of what you have to say, it resonates so much deeper. Some other things that come into play here are things like self-care and self-reflection. Got to take care of yourself. I'm a firm subscriber to the idea of oxygen mask theory, and that is a question that gets asked. If you're on a plane with your child and something happens and the oxygen masks fall, whose mask do you put on first? And a lot of people's instinctive answer is their child's, trying to be a good parent, make sure their kid's okay. But the actual answer to that question is you put your own mask on first. And the reason why is because if something happens to you while you're trying to get your child's mask on, and you don't have your own mask on, and you don't get that kid's mask on, you're both done. But if you make sure you get your mask on first, even if the child passes out, you can still get the mask on them, and then they can start breathing again. But you can't help anybody unless you've helped yourself. So you have to take the time to take care of you. And sometimes that means telling the whole world, hey, I'm on do not disturb for the next day or two. And that's okay. It can sometimes be as simple as just jumping in the shower and allowing yourself to experience the feeling of the water running over you. And hold that mindfulness around it. What these things do is they allow you to have the clarity of thought to really hit the biggest piece of all of going within and the whole point of going within, which is being able to hold yourself accountable for your role in the things you've got going on. Because ultimately, we're the only ones who can change the direction of our lives, the path we're taking, the trail we're on. But we have to first acknowledge our role in how we got there in the first place. And that's not an easy thing. Nobody wants to have to say, I screwed up somewhere along the road. But it becomes critical in the healing process. And the deep dive is where you really get to see yourself in that lens, staring into the void, realizing the thing moving in the void is you, your shadow, your reflection, your darkness, and the things that you really need to work on. Because once you learn to love the things in the dark actually aren't so scary. They become the pieces that you realize were some of the best pieces of you all along, and they got hurt somewhere along the way. You didn't do anything about it. But once you take that accountability, you're able to start moving forward. Now, where does going within lead? How does it promote personal growth? Well, we've touched on it a little. It teaches you the truths about yourself. And a lot of these truths are things that we are conditioned from a very young age to ignore. Your gut, it knows, but we're taught to ignore those instincts and those feelings. We're conditioned to believe that if we don't fit in with everybody around us, then something's wrong. And that's where they get us. The reality is, by going within, you learn to love the greatest enemy. You learn to love yourself. Because one of the hardest things I had to take accountability for and acknowledge was that I was the common denominator in all of my problems. That I needed to work on me because sometimes I truly was the problem. And in the end, it allowed me to be able to acknowledge the things I'd done wrong, hold myself accountable for them, and even further, be able to forgive myself for the things that had happened, for allowing certain things to happen, forgive myself for holding people responsible when I didn't fully understand certain situations, and forgiving myself, understanding that some of the traumas I experienced literally happened because I was a kid and life rolled me, and it is what it is. But I can't let it continue to victimize me. And it helps you to, as you go deeper, you realize you weren't always wrong. Your gut was actually right most of the time. You find that confidence within yourself. You find yourself starting to grow. When we hit this point in our growth, we start to come up on the unintended side effects. Because, one of the things I learned was better listening skills. And some people, they see the wheels turning in my head and they're not understanding what's going on. They think I'm thinking of the next thing I'm going to say, and that's not the case at all. I got the wheels turning in my head because I am not just listening to the words you say, but the energy with which you say them. I'm tracking tone, for I'm tracking the nonverbal cues, the energy of what you're saying, whether the energy matches the words. I'm checking all that because I learned to listen on those levels by going within, and it allowed me to be able to check myself. It made me far more willing to hold myself accountable. Life isn't easy, and it becomes kind of easy to say, well, I I didn't know any better. Well, yeah, that may be the case, but did you learn from it? Do you know better now? And if you just wrote it off as I didn't know any better and didn't do anything about it, well then no, you didn't learn. But once you've learned, it becomes a beautiful thing. That accountability, it causes you to shine from within. You find the light within the darkness. You become the light within the darkness because you illuminate the darkest place. You illuminate yourself from within. And trust me, people see it in your eyes. They see it in your demeanor. They see it in your aura. When you shine like thermite, it irks people's souls because their shortcomings start to become blatantly obvious. There's no place to hide it anymore in that brightness. Don't let it get to you when they tell you to turn down the shine, because that shine is just as critical. It shows that you've healed. And unfortunately, it is going to irritate the souls of some of those around you. They're not always going to understand why. They're going to try and take it out on you, but it's nothing personal. They just don't know how to express the fact that something about what you've done and the healing and the approach you took to your life that they are almost scared and unwilling to take, that bothers them because you were actually brave enough to do it. And it's not that we need to hold that against people. It actually means that we should handle that with understanding and compassion. It means not killing them with kindness, but understanding that they still deserve love and respect, and not to be treated poorly just because they're at a different point in their healing. And that's just it. Everybody is at a different point in their healing. I hit a point many, many years ago that I stopped hating people. The ones who have done me wrong, the ones who've harmed me, I still love them. The love just shifts. And it goes from an open boundary to a closed one. And a lot of prayers that they find the peace that they seek. Not the peace I found, but the peace that they need in their life so that they can learn to experience peace just as I had to teach myself. And that's just it. It's a lesson we have to teach ourselves. But in the end, by going deep within ourselves, by taking this deep dive within our heart, within our soul, by becoming a better version of ourselves and continuing to work to become the being that is in alignment with our purpose. And everybody's got a different purpose. Everybody's alignment is going to look different. You guys actually get to see a little bit of mine here, because a lot of the things I went through, it was to bring me to the point where I'm sitting right now, quite literally in front of my computer, recording a podcast, telling you guys about the journey I took, the trail that I walked, and how that trail has truly defined the ways that I see life, and how by applying similar techniques in your own world, you can find these things within yourself. It's something of great value if you're willing to do it. But it's also something that nobody else on this planet is going to be able to do for you. And until you decide that it's what you want, until you begin the process of healing, you're going to end up finding yourself caught in the same cycles. And they're going to get more intense every run, because the universe will continue to apply pressure until one of two things happens. You either call it quits and give up, or you get tired of your own bull crap, pick yourself up by the bootstraps, and do better. It's 100% possible. It's 100% within your capability, so long as you believe it is within your capability. And that's where going within really does become so important, because it's through those trips within yourself, through the healing process, through learning to trust yourself again, and through letting your light shine, that you find the confidence to step into alignment with your purpose. And let me tell you, doesn't necessarily mean things are going to get easier per se. It just means that it's not going to seem as difficult. Because just like a weightlifter that's been adding weight for years, you go back to something that's not quite as heavy and it seems like a cakewalk. Your shoulders become that much broader as you work through the traumas, as you heal your soul, and the load doesn't seem so difficult to bear anymore. I'd like to thank you guys for taking the time to join us for this episode of the Trail Podcast, a JDS Philosophy production. I would like to thank you for your support. I'd encourage you, if you've liked this message, there's more like this. I would encourage you to check out the mini lecture series. That's available on Spotify. I also do have those lectures, for the most part, available on Patreon, YouTube, Facebook, and quite a few of them over on TikTok. It's something that I know this message, it's going to resonate. And if it resonated with you today, we post more inspirational stuff all the time. So like, follow, subscribe, whatever platform you found this on. Then go venture over to the other platforms and follow us there as well. I appreciate your time. Remember, the trail we take in our lives, it's truly how we see things. It shows us the reality we live in. And in the end, they shall know you by your trail.